Hey, what's going on, good people? It's your boy James Harris, of course, Mental Heal. Listen, I appreciate all the support over the years, whether it was for my book, man, Just Express Yourself, which is an interactive planning guide for boys and men to better express themselves. So salute to those parents who got it for their young sons. Praises to those partners and couples who got it for the men in their life. Of course, to the schools, the administrative, and everybody else who ordering the book by the dozens. I definitely appreciate that. And also salute to everybody who supported me on Cheesy Date Board Games, which is a good game for adults and couples, your game night, your date night. So many interactive ideas come from it. I definitely love the responses that it's garnering. But now I'm asking for your support again on this YouTube journey. I'm back. I took a little break because I had so much going on, but be a little bit more consistent with it. I got a couple of interviews lined up with prominent people and people doing phenomenal things within the community or within this mental health space or even different authors and things like that. So bear with me. Appreciate your support. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And the guest that I got coming up now is
My name is Isaac Keys. I am currently have a book out called The Grind Don't Stop, It Just Changes, a memoir, autobiography, as you may read it. You can catch it on isaackeys.com. I also have the pleasure and gratefulness to play the character Diamond Sampson on Power Book 4 Force, and I'm a proud member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Rule.
Yes, sir. My son's actually them 22 boys. Uh,
Love it.
Listen, man. So even before you got into the acting and everything, I noticed that you played in NFL, the Vikings, Green Bay, Arizona. How was that transition, man?
That's one phase and part of my life that I'm proud of. It wasn't something that came to me easily. And I speak about that a lot in the book, and even when I talk to people, because I don't want people just to see the story. Before I want people. I don't want to see the glory. I want them to see the story before the glory, if I may say that. Just the trials and tribulations, the work ethic, the downs and the highs and lows, the no's, all those things. Even to get to the NFL, and then even after that and get into acting. So, it was a dream come true to play in the NFL on the highest level of football. But also, I didn't feel like I received it the way I wanted it. I wanted it. I wanted to be on that field starting or having more playing time that always didn't come into play. So I like to tell that side of the story too.
Yeah, which is true. So I interview a lot of athletes, some collegiate, some professional, and some of them have difficulty navigating after that they finish playing. How did you feel when it was no longer a part of your journey? What are some things that you did?
Yeah, it was difficult for me as well. I fell into that category. I think the reason why it was so difficult is because it was something I would have done since I was 7 years old. I played the sport at 7 years old, and you put so much into it. You put so much, not just knowledge and time, but you put blood, sweat, and tears. You put your body on the line for the sport that you love so much and for your teammates. And when it comes to an end where it's not in your hands to be able to call it quits, it's somebody else's hands. It's somebody else that is saying, hey, the phone is not ringing and we're not calling you, we're not signing you to this contract. And no matter how much you try, no much effort you put into it, you're no longer able to obtain that sport. It puts you into a turmoil, into a place of life where you just feel unfulfilled. You feel inadequate, from my experience. You feel that you have lost that passion and that love for something. I mean, you still have it, but you don't know how to transfer that over to something else.
Yeah, yeah. So when I'm talking to athletes at colleges and or working with the NFLPA, like I realized that a lot of them don't understand their identity because their identity was being that athlete opposed to, oh no, I'm a father, I'm a creator. Like I can do so many other things, but a portion of their identity was just tied to being that barbaric figure on the field. So I'm glad you was able to navigate those things, man, on your end. Uh,
Sure. But to speak on before you move, the identity, the identity is created not just by you on the field, the person, but by your peers. Like your parents see you as that athlete. They see that your friends, your peers around you, your classmates, they start seeing you as the athlete too. So you start to take on that pressure of feeling like, wow, who am I to them? And they no longer, and even them, it's like somebody passes away. They don't know what the right thing to say, even when you no longer that athlete. They don't know. So you feel like ashamed. You also feel identity, but even the people around you don't know how to really approach you or to really try to talk to you sometimes. And a lot of athletes fall into that, and that's why it leads sometimes to deeper, depression and mental health issues.
Nah, hey, and then it's real, man. And being that it's a heck of a segue, I'm a therapist, so of course we got to touch on the mental health side. So, what are you doing now to support your mental health?
I think with me now is that, even then, once I was starting to understand, because when I was transitioning out of football, mental health wasn't a big topic. It wasn't a major topic. It wasn't something the NFLPA was tapping into. It wasn't something that therapists were tapping into. They weren't reaching out to players saying, hey, how's your mental health? So a lot of guys were doing what we knew best was suppressing it, finding other things, outlets. And then sometimes those were not positive outlets that we were finding. And for me personally, acting helped me, not knowing it, but acting was like my therapy because it was allowing me to release a lot of the angriness, the bitterness, the just the emotions that I had from the sport. It became my therapy because I was able to release that through emotions through characters, being able to substitute my personal emotions and putting them into characters and finding their truth allowed me to release it and be able to kind of have more of an understanding of it to where I wasn't just holding it all in. From that point on, now as mental health became more aware and more opportunities, especially in NFLPA, they give us sessions, free sessions for therapy. It's just up to us to make sure we seek it. And I sought it. So I went out and I started finding me therapists that I could talk to, confide in, especially as I'm navigating through this new business that's very similar to football, is trying to, through acting, to trying to, navigate through that and find myself in that and my new identity as you spoke of. And the therapy allowed me to be able to relinquish a lot of the heartache, the pain, and joys by being able to talk to somebody who was just, spoke from an objective place in the therapist.
No, no doubt, man. And I'm hoping that a lot of more of your peers take advantage of those opportunities that they have, especially with the transition from not only the field and or the court or whatever sport you play, but like you mentioned, and going into that new journey, that other part of the beginning, and for you, it became acting. So I'm glad you was able to find something else that you're passionate about that you can deep dive into. So this book, man, solid piece of literature. What inspired you to, I guess, get into it and then title it "The Grind Don't Stop, It Just Changes"? I can imagine what that change is and
Yeah.
what you mean by it, but for the people who don't know.
Well, the grind don't stop. It just changes. It came to me years ago, but it started off with when I was saying watching The Wire, and it was a phrase that one of the characters used. He said, the game don't stop. It just changes. And I looked at it as just the story of how my life is how I've just went from one thing to the next, and it's like I've always felt as though I was an underdog, and I've had to work. I wasn't the best athlete in high school, so I had to work at that. I walked on in college because I didn't get offers for scholarships because I was played opposition. Walked on to schools and they put me in another position and walked on to another school. They told me I had to sit out a year. So it was like all these different things were happening in my life that when I got to this point in my life where I am now, when I started looking back on, it was like I just never stopped. All that stuff was grinding and the no's and the yeses and the injuries and loss of family members or different things that happened in my life was part of the grind of just nurturing and molding me to become the person I am today through that process. And it's like when you look at the definition of grind, it's more about molding and grinding something down to fit or form into something later on. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just about how do you change and how do you learn and adapt to what's happening for you next in life. And that's where the grind don't stop, it just changes comes from. And I just felt as though I had so many stories. People say that I live so many lives. Most of the time we're fighting to live one life. We have one dream. It's like I'm able to live at least two dreams, like for the dream to get to the NFL and to be acting and be a working actor. And not knowing how those both were going to come. I didn't know, the process. It wasn't a set way. You didn't know. So all the journey along with that is what I was allowed to, put in these stories for the book to make it relatable because it's not just about sports. Somebody in corporate America has to transition from one job to the next because they got laid off. Somebody is, a young athlete, a kid learning how to move from one school to the next school or move to a next state to the next state, having to, make new friends and having to, pick up and leave. And it's about being uncomfortable and learning how to be comfortable in certain situations and adapting and to learning and to adjusting to life and just to keep going, even if you had to sit down and take a break for a second to figure things out and sit still so you can hear what's the next move. That's what the book is, it's all about. And when we talk about mental health, I don't want people to think it's just about sports and what because that's highlighted on TV because unfortunately we have a loss of somebody committing suicide, which was recently with the Cowboys, Marshawn Leland, and it ain't just about sports. We just that's disappointing you heard because it's like Cowboys, but you got so many other people that are dealing with so many things in life right now, especially at young ages because they're exposed to so much that it's just important that you find someone to talk to. You find a safe place. You find someone that a safe zone or a group of people or just one person that you talk to be able to get these things out because holding it in only suppresses you and it keeps you down and it also starts to affect your health in other ways. Like it's just not good. So my book was just my tribute to the world to be able to, use what I've been through and to relate to other people. And if they feel derailed, stuck, or just trying to figure out their identity and self dealing with self doubt, that's my tribute to them to be able to just help through my stories.
No, I appreciate that, man. Your autobiography definitely sounds like one of those things that can inspire a lot of people, even get a lot of people motivated.
Sure.
So for you specifically though, you went from football to acting. Like, was it a lot of adversity to remain positive within that space, or was it immediately like after as soon as you got out the field, you was able to line up auditions and jump right into it?
No, man. They say God gives his strong people, the harder routes, right? I felt like I guess he deemed me as one of the strong people in a sense. And it's not to say that mine is, different or more than anyone else's, just my story or my route, my journey. And that's what you start to realize is that everybody has their own journey. So it was not immediate. I continue, like I said, how I worked to even get to the NFL for like the same thing I had to do. I was on repeat for the acting wise. I was in acting. I just got moved to LA. I had a house in Phoenix. I was driving back and forth from Phoenix to LA, trying to for auditions because I had a house in Phoenix, nowhere to stay in. Excuse me, in LA. So I would drive in the middle of the night to get there before traffic for an audition that may be at 12. And I would just hang out in different places, in LA, whether it's a friend's house or just in my car to be able to do the audition, and then I would figure out the pocket of time to be able to drive back to Phoenix, without catching all the traffic and go back to the house. And I would do that over and over again until eventually I found my way to moving to LA and staying on couch surfing, staying on friends' couches and apartments, and that's not now, if you know me, that's not me. Like my ego and pride was so much involved because I felt ashamed because I was just an NFL player and now I'm couch surfing and not much money in the bank account, living check to check. Not because I was just making poor decisions. Life just did that. Real estate in 2008 dropped right when I was, trying to do it. I was trying to make money into that, crashing, that crash, the money being stole from an agent, those type of things where now, like we was talking about, it was like $50 in my bank account at one point. But I'm driving around a Tahoe, I'm sitting on 24s and speakers in the system, having a house in Phoenix and all these other multiple houses that I was trying to make an empire. I knew what I was going after. It just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And that's also, seek knowledge, not having the knowledge of how to, the wherewithal, how to manage all those different things, even though my ambitions were high, my aspirations were high. um, it just didn't work out that way. So what do you do when it all falls and all crumbles apart? Do you crumble with it or do you pick yourself up and go? And somehow I had the momentum, the mindset, and the support group to be like, you know what, this is not going to define me. I got to pick up from it, no matter how angry and no matter how hurt I was. I had to pick myself up and just keep going. And like I said, do it on repeat and find it in acting and work my way up in acting.
I got you. So it sounds like acting has definitely assisted not only your mental health, but you touched on it earlier. Some of the characters that you play and reveal yourself through impacts other people because you was able to transpire that emotion to make those characters come to life. So can you touch on that a little bit more? How has acting, I guess, positively impacted your mental health outside of what we just talked about?
Yeah, it just helped in a way of where, first off, it gave me purpose. It gave me something to work towards. And I think anybody wants to find, if you have something to work towards, then it gives you that purpose and that drive. It's like I can wake up every day because I'm going after something. And that was the athlete mentality, in me as well. But I've always wanted more for myself, even as a kid. It's like I wanted more for myself. And I was blessed to have two parents that always put that in me too. They wanted more for me. They had set high standards for myself and my sister. So when it came to acting, it was like I would wake up every day and I would just work on the craft. But then as we started to, get little characters here and there, it's like you know, I'm unable to be, especially playing Diamond Samson, I'm unable to be the 6'4", 250 pound angry person or do these things like that in regular life that character allows me to be able to do those things, to say some things that I normally would not say in my everyday life, to do those things, to act upon and act a certain way. So it gives me an outlet to be able to let some of those things that I be feeling inside personally, to be able to let them out via the character. Diamond did that. Isaac didn't do that. Diamond did that. So that helps. And I really encourage anybody, even if you're not pursuing acting, to take acting classes. Because I'm telling you this why. It allows you to really learn who you are in person and personally in a safe place. It allows you to let go of those inhibitions and those barriers and those blockers that you put up in your life because you had to be so image conscious or because you didn't want somebody to know this about you or those type of things that you're insecure about or have self-doubt about. Acting class gives you that space because you're going to have to open up. You're going to have to be that silly animal or that animal or something that they when the teacher says, "I want you to be a giraffe." You're going to have to sit there in that classroom and be a giraffe. I want you to be a cow. Like, what's a cow like? You have to think about what is a cow? What does it do? And you do that in front of people, but it's a safe place because it's in that class. But when you go into everyday world, it allows you, now you feel a little more open. I felt more like I was able to communicate better. I wasn't ashamed of just being more blunt or just being, out in just my behavior of just being feeling more free. And a lot of people need to be freed up, man, because they're locked up right now. They're locked up so much, and physically, mentally, and they need to be freed up to be able to live this life the way you need to live it.
Hey, that's an interesting perspective because I often tell people I wish everybody could experience basic training. Like I'm a veteran, but the training that we had to do for
Hmm.
basic training just allows people to understand their resilience and
Yes.
tough work and all those things, build a tenacity and so much more. But it's interesting to hear you say that everybody should at least try improv of acting because
Yeah.
can express more vulnerability and put you in that place of
Mhm.
freedom.
Yeah.
And some of the things I do in my session with people is music. They identify different titles that relate to them at certain periods of time. But also, I incorporate not so much acting, but scripts, just different scripts and
Yeah.
schemas that they should do. Because, yes, if you can act out or put yourself in another character, how would you respond? And so that is an interesting
How would that
perspective.
care to respond? Because you think about it, we really compile a lot in our journey in life. We lock up a lot of things in order to keep moving on, to keep going on, and it becomes locked up. And then you start realizing, like, okay, well, why do I separate my food on my plate and I don't like my food to touch? You look back into your life like what it is, and because I just have part things where I don't like things to be mixed together so much. I like things to be separate and have their own identity. It'd be things like that. But just learning those different things are blockers and it's barriers. There's a book called The Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer, and it taught me about and it helped me get through the rough part of my life from the transition from football into acting or finding acting. And it was just breaking down, just like we set so many barriers in our life and we don't know why. We set so many walls in our life that we don't know why, that we had to start to break down these walls to be able to open up again and free us in this world because we have so much trauma that we go through that continues to build up. And as a therapist, it builds up and it locks up. And then all of a sudden you don't realize, but now you acting very insecure because of all these traumas. When you're really not an insecure person,
Mhm.
or not being, trustworthy or distrust. All these different things because of things, in life. So I think it's important that we find those outlets in what you're doing as well as a therapist.
Man, so when we was talking earlier, you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned rebuilding with only $50 in your pocket, going back and forth from Hollywood to Phoenix. That sounds like a lot, bro.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned not allowing your ego and your pride to get in the way of asking people for help. So can
Yeah.
you touch on that a little bit more? Because I know a lot of men have that issue of asking for help or just, letting that pride and ego get in the way and probably miss opportunities and so much more.
It's a fine line between asking for help and expecting help. And I think part of the integrity of a person is how you've walked through this life. Whether you're somebody who just leaned or mooshed off somebody, or someone who's tried to help people throughout their life when you can. And I think, and your friendships, your relationships that you build, you find out who really has your back when you are going through something. That is very true. And I've always kind of, people always looked at me as like kind of like having my things together. And a lot of people don't know that I was going through, people that I consider friends, what I was going through at that time. Because I was also a person, I don't like to put my burden on anybody else. I need to figure this out myself. I don't want to put the burden on you if I don't have to. Um, so it took a lot for me to be able to get to a point to where to even just ask my parents for help. There was a time mentally, and I share this, is that where I went to church because I was going through it. The housing stuff was crashing on me. I was using my own funds to try to keep these houses afloat when I should just let them foreclose, but I didn't know that. Because that's how accountable I am, responsible with bills. I don't want to owe anybody and just like this, and all that mindset and not knowing really became my detriment. I was going to church because I needed to hear the word. I needed the pastor to talk directly to me. I needed him because you go to church and you need to feel that spirit like, okay, now I'm leaving out of church feeling like, oh, he was talking to me. I got the word. I know where I'm going now. I was looking for that. I went to church and I was there for an hour and a half. Legs start tapping when I'm in the pew. I'm not hearing the word. He's not giving me what I felt like I'm yearning, what I needed at that point. I'm like, I just felt I was hurt by that. And I was just like, okay, I don't know what else to do. And I was driving home and I literally started just crying as I'm driving. But the crazy part about it is I'm crying and I have the wherewithal emotionally that I'm looking in the mirror, rearview mirror as I'm crying, and I don't even know how to cry like that. So it really was bad because I don't, I'm not a big crier. And I just started crying because the emotions were so overwhelming me of the hurt, the anger, the bitterness, all those different emotions coming. And I look in the mirror and I laugh at the same time, like, boy, you in here crying, and I'm saying this conversation with myself. And I went home, and this was the first time I literally called my parents, blessed to have them, and said, I ain't got it, y'all. I messed up. Like, and I owe this and this and this. And I said, I don't know what to do. And they said, what you need? And I told them an amount of money that I needed at the time. Luckily, my parents are blessed enough to be able to, they worked their asses off to be able to have something, and they were able to give it to me.
That's
That was the first start, man, of just like being like, okay. And I had a close friend who was going through something, but he, had a job, but he was going through a breakup. Hey, man, come move into the house, man, while you going through the breakup through the house and everything. Close friend, and he was there for me. He was there financially. And he'd be like, man, come on, Isaac, go here. Because I'm not the type, if I don't have it, I ain't going out. Like, I'm sitting right there in the house. He's like, man, come on, I got you. And it took hard for me to be like, someone have your friend say, I got you, and just, take care of you in a way, because you don't ever want nobody to hold that over your head later on. You don't want nobody to feel that, and that pride and that ego will hold you down, man. And I just had a good group of people because I was a good person as well. And I worked on being that really had my back. And, and it's just appreciative, man. And it's just, it's the company you keep, man, and the support groups you have around you that's so important, to be able to help you because nobody makes it alone. Nobody. Nobody makes it alone. And you need good people in your corner to have your back. And you need to have the integrity and the ambition to be able to go after what you want and to see it through in the aspect of just being like, okay, this is what I'm going for. And have that let go of the ego and pride. Like I know I'm getting long, but it's important. I went to LA and started over. In Arizona, people knew me as Isaac Keys, played for the Arizona Cardinals, who was here, here, and here. But when I was going through that whole hardship and I ain't have shit, LA allowed me to go reinvent myself. They didn't know me as that. So I could go work at that group home. I'm trying to find a job. I can work the night shift at the group home so I can do audition in the daytime. I can work as a security guard over at this, restaurant or at this, this club or whatnot because they don't know who I am. I can do that. And what I'm saying, not to deal with that feeling that I created of ashamed, being ashamed and feeling like lesser than and inadequate and all those feelings, I can go work that job. I could live in that one bedroom apartment. And eventually I was like, you know what? Why I'm trying to hide all this? My friends like, yeah, it's a transition, bro. I accepted it. And once I accepted it, blessings started happening. Things started going like, okay, cool. Because I wasn't trying to hide anymore. I wasn't trying to just, try to fulfill and live up to what other people's expectation was or what. I let them know that yes, you can make it and it can be taken away just like that. But what you gonna do about it to get it back or to get evolved to a higher level?
My man, definitely appreciate that, man. A lot of resilience in your passion and your discovery of not only your current self, but reinventing yourself in other aspects that you do, not only on the screen, but of course, entrepreneurship wise. So, what advice would you give to somebody else who's now in that state of pivot, whether it's this person pivoting from college to employment, from employee to supervisor or manager or whatever? Like what advice or tips would you give them? Because again, the grind don't stop, it just shifts.
Just changes. Yeah, it just changes. So one thing I would do is, man, is write down your ideas. Write down what makes you happy. What do you enjoy doing? Find out those things because now you had opportunity to say we're trying to find our new identity. If football is not there, but you enjoy the aspect of coaching, take some steps to go into coaching. If it's still something, because you still got to stay close to the game right then, because you don't want to just let it go. Look into personal training, look into mentorship of dealing with athletes, having that gratification. Find out what makes you happy. Write those things down, and then find a way to which you can incorporate those things into your life, whether it be the job, or just actually just volunteering or something that doesn't necessarily pay at the moment. But those action items and them steps are what's going to continue to propel you forward. Take those steps, and then you're going to start seeing the avenues start to appear, streets of things that you want. Oh, I can do that, or I can do that. And don't be afraid to try those things and see how they affect you because that process is teaching you what's next for you. It's teaching you where can you apply yourself, where can you put yourself in what position that you like, oh, I enjoy doing that. Oh, I can get paid for it too. But if you stay at home and you stagnant, and you just sitting in the house just moping around, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's not gonna come to you all the time. Just
Yeah,
continue to be active, continue to take steps, and you'll work your way through it. And I think the key is just working your way through it. You're not always going to get over. You're not going to get over all the time that football is gone, your job is gone. You just got to work your way through it. A therapist told me that when I'm dealing with death. He said, you're always, because that person was, or even a relationship, breaking up a relationship, getting divorced, that person holds a space in your life, a place in your heart. You're not going to get over it, but you can feel your way through it.
true. Indeed, man. And it's different stages of grief too. So I'm glad the therapist was able to share that with you and you applied it. So now navigating this Hollywood thing, man, your resilience has definitely played off. So we see you now currently on Stars, Power Book Force. You've done roles with ABC on Will Trent. You've done Fox like Lucifer. You did Supergirl. So many more. So what's next for you in this Hollywood side of things, man?
Well, the industry is crazy, man, the Hollywood side of things. And, those opportunities are going to come. I get auditions, and you don't always, they think that, because they see you on the show that you don't audition or you don't get turned down for roles. They get turned down for roles all the time. I can send an awesome audition in, but the studio may want somebody different, somebody else, seasoned or whatever it may be, and they'll choose that person. So it's very subjective in a sense. But all you can do is what I've learned is to continue to just do the best I can. And sometimes your best ain't good enough, then sometimes it is. So do the best I can. So I'm continue to audition for that part, for the roles and as they come, and then start to create my own. Try to start getting scripts and getting together with friends, other actors, and creating our own projects and making those things happen. Because there's a lot of stories to tell, and there's a lot of great actors that you may not even know about that I know about or somebody know that just haven't broken in yet to be on some hit series right now, but are amazing actors, and it's about the time to give them that work as well too by creating our own things. And outside of that, just promoting this book, man, just really getting people to understand that the grind on stop it just changes and just motivate and inspiring who wants to be motivated and inspired and helping others and just leaving that part of the legacy for my stories to help others.
No, I got you, man. And that was gonna be my follow-up question. Do you have any aspirations to do any work behind the cameras? You mentioned developing scripts and putting other people on, but
Yeah.
what about producing or directing and different avenues like that?
Yes, and I think through this process of acting, it's allowed me to kind of put myself in a position to, looking at producing, even directing as well too. I don't want to get, bite off more than I can chew. But again, as I've been preaching, you got to start somewhere. You just got to put the, one foot in front of the other to do it. So I'm definitely open to that and looking at opportunities to do so. And then from there, it's just, man, just continue to stay and continue to create on all, avenues and create. I think it just gives me that freedom. That gives me that smile on my face. It gives me the opportunity. Because I'm not creating, I get weird. I gotta let it out. You know what I'm saying? I gotta let it all out. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Last question, man. So you mentioned that you are part of the greatest fraternity on earth. So how has that assisted you and helped you? Of course, the brotherhood, I'm sure you can correlate to the times in the locker room and so much more.
Right.
But how has Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated assisted you like now in on your journeys?
I mean, as you stated earlier, man, friendship. Um, Friendship and brotherhood has always been at the top tier of one of the things that always look for in life, not even knowing about the fraternity aspect. I love having good friends around me. I love being around them and, just interaction. And I think that's you know, what grabbed me about the fraternity of Omega Psi Phi. And then over the years of being perseverance, all the way from college all the way to finally, achieving that in 2022, it was just, it was just a culmination of all of that together. It was, so having this brother and having this friendship, brought me here to do this interview with you. That's one thing. And to be able to help lift you up in everything that you're doing, and as you well, lift me up as well as we continue to support one another. And I think in life, and I spoke about it, through our interview, is having great people around you, having a good support group, or having great people around you. And the fraternity has allowed me to be able to meet and be able to help so many people, that gave me a platform that has helped me. And all I can do is do my best to help the fraternity.
My man, I definitely appreciate that, man. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you're busy. But lastly, man, how can people go out and get this book? The grind don't stop, it just changes. Where can they get it? Where can they pre-order and so much more?
Sure, so many phases to it. Right now, it's so simple. IsaacKeys.com. It's just simple. Click on IsaacKeys.com. Go to that. Click pre-order. All pre-order books will be personally signed by me. So right now, we're in the pre-sale process, the pre-order process, where you can order that book now, and all books will be signed by me. You should get your book probably by the beginning of March. It's pre-sales, and then the next phase will go to Audible and Amazon, and you have that audio book later on as well too, because you got to hear it from my mouth. You got to hear the words from me. Let me tell my story. So I look forward to that. But everything's good. IsaacKeys.com. Even follow me, support me on everything. It's Isaac Keys.
Big dog, definitely appreciate you, man. Keep up the good work and everything that you do. And of course, I'll hit you up.
Love, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing too.
Yes, sir.